Hello everyone. This video is about formal language and thesis statements. So I hope you enjoy. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is formal and informal language. If you will look at page 3 of your handouts packet, if you did not print it, if you want to open it up in another tab and look at page 3 of your handouts packet, I want to go over 3 different types of language that we use in everyday life. Those 3 types of language are colloquial, moderate, and formal. So colloquial language that's the most informal type of language that we have. So these colloquial conversations are conversations that you may have with your friend group or at home with your family. Sentences for colloquial language are often very short and simple. Many times these sentences are not complete sentences. Our word choice or diction is comprised of popular words, slang, contractions, and in some cases, just sounds. If you are at home and your mom says, "Hey, do you want dinner?" and you respond with, "Mm-hmm," that is just a sound. It's not a word. But it's still communication. So diction in colloquial conversations are very informal. The tone of a colloquial conversation depends on the subject, but more often than not, you use first and second person pronouns with colloquial language. First person pronouns are pronouns like I, me, my, myself, mine, and second person pronouns are you, your, yours, yourself. So those types of pronouns are informal and are often a large part of colloquial conversations. When we text our friends, when we send emails to our friends, when we write notes to ourselves, we are using colloquial language. Colloquial language is inappropriate for college writing unless you are specifically told that informal or creative writing is what your assignment entails. You should not use colloquial writing in academics, which means for most people you should not write the way that you speak. Your writing should be much more formal than your everyday conversation. And then we have moderate language. Moderate language is a little more formal than colloquial language. Moderate language is similar to small talk that you have with strangers at the grocery store. Because it's a stranger at the grocery store, they don't know your personality, they don't know how your brain works the way that your family and your friends do. So when we speak to strangers out in public, we tend to have longer sentences. They're of medium length. We usually use complete sentences because that helps us get our point across so that strangers don't misunderstand us. And we usually mix colloquial diction, so slang words and contractions, with more formal diction or dictionary words, so to speak. Tone in moderate language is semi-formal, so yes, you're still using first person and second person pronouns, but it's just a little more formal than colloquial. Moderate language is the biggest type of writing that we as a people use. We use moderate language in emails. We use moderate language with correspondence with other acquaintances. And it could be appropriate for some college writing tasks. It's not appropriate for English 101. The purpose of English 101 is to learn how to write formal academic essays. But in some of your other academic areas, they may not care as much about formal writing, so you might be able to get away with moderate writing. I would double check with your instructor first, though. And then we have formal writing. So in formal writing, your sentences are long. They should be long and they should be varied in structure, which means they have lots of clauses and phrases, and where your verbs and your nouns are kind of different from sentence to sentence. And all sentences should be complete. There should be no incomplete sentences in formal writing. Your vocabulary in formal writing should be as extensive as you can make it. No slang terms, no contractions should be available, or written, I should say, in formal writing. Your tone is also very serious in formal writing. You should never use first or second person pronouns. You should never use I, me, my, mine. You should never say you, your, or yours in a formal essay. You should only use third person pronouns. Let me repeat that. You should only use third person pronouns. Okay? Also, you should write formally for academic and professional purposes. It doesn't really have a place outside of academic or professional writing. This is not a style that someone would use on a daily basis. This is a style that we have to learn how to use, and this is a style that we have to be able to use in the most professional of circumstances. So let's talk about thesis statements. The first step in writing a formal academic essay is creating a thesis statement. So if you remember correctly from a previous notes, a thesis statement is the last sentence of your introductory paragraph. So if you'll turn to your English handouts packet and turn to page 5, there's some information about thesis statements on that page. I had to minimize my screen a little bit so I can keep up with my time. It doesn't show up on the big recording, and I don't want to run out of time, so that's why the screen got smaller. But anyway, so thesis statements in formal writing. Your thesis statement has a basic format, right? So it should be your topic, and then your opinion on that topic, and that kind of creates your thesis statement. Now, I know I said your opinion, but that does not mean that you should say, in my opinion, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. I know it's your opinion because you wrote it on the paper. You don't need to say, in my opinion. My is a first-person pronoun, and remember, we don't use first-person pronouns in formal writing. Since the thesis is the most important sentence of an essay, it's important to work on it first. So you pick a topic, and you create a thesis statement, and then the rest of your essay is going to be built around that thesis statement. The purpose of a thesis statement is to act as a guide for your body paragraphs. If you list the plan of development, which we'll talk about in just a second, your body paragraph should follow the same order as mentioned in your thesis. So let's talk about some things that a thesis statement should absolutely never do. A thesis statement should never be too specific. It should never be too narrow. It should never state a fact. It should always be arguable. It should never make an announcement. In this essay, I will, or this essay will, or in my opinion. It should never make that announcement. And it should never talk about ideas that your essay does not also talk about. But what a thesis statement should do, it should be one sentence at the end of your introduction paragraph. It should state one idea. It should make a generalization that can be supported or argued. It has to be arguable. It should be interesting so people will want to read what you have to say, and it should include clear and parallel phrasing. Okay, so in a nutshell, it should be argumentative. You should be able to prove whatever it is you're saying. It should be of adequate scope, so it should be limited to a topic that is easily managed in one essay, and it should be sharply focused with specific language that expresses one clear idea. So let's take a look at a couple of practice thesis statements. So if you'll turn to page 7, page 7 gives you a list of 10 different thesis statements. I am going to highlight some of these words, some of these thesis statements. Yellow will be good and green, yellow will be bad and green will be good, okay? So yellow is bad, green is good. So World War I and II were the worst wars ever. That, yellow is bad, green is good. So this thesis statement, this first one right here, that is a bad thesis statement because of the word ever. If you say World War I and II were the worst wars ever, then your paper has to discuss every single war that has ever been fought on the face of the planet. English 101 is a course taught at Central Alabama Community College. That is also a bad thesis statement. That's a fact. You can't argue with that. English 101 is taught at Central Alabama Community College. That's why you're here. Number 3, long-range weather forecasts should not be included on the evening news program. So that's a pretty good thesis statement. We're going to give that one green because green is good. It talks about one thing, long-range weather forecast, that's one thing. It is arguable, so I could say, yes, they should be included. We could argue that. So it's specific, it talks about one thing, and it's arguable. Number 4, the major cause of today's violence is television, and the fact that the courts are too lenient. So this one, it sounds like it might be okay, but it's not, because it covers 2 topics. You have the major cause of today's violence is television is one topic, and the leniency of the courts, that's a separate topic. So it talks about 2 topics, and that makes it a bad thesis statement. Number 5, vending machines at school encourage poor nutrition. So that's a good thesis statement. We're talking about one thing, vending machines at school. You could argue that that vending machines do not cause poor nutrition. They have water right next to the Coke. If you choose to drink the water, that's a good choice. So you could argue with that statement. All right, number 6, the common cold cannot be cured. Cannot be cured by antibiotics. That is a bad thesis statement because it is a fact. The common cold is a virus. Antibiotics only cure bacteria. So, if you have a virus, which is the cold, then you cannot be cured by an antibiotic. That's a fact. School should replace football as a school sport. That's a good thesis statement. It is arguable. It is specific. Soccer should replace football. Number 8, television is an exciting career choice. That seems like it could be a good thesis statement, but the language is not clear. A television is a thing that you hang on the wall that you watch shows on. So to say that television is an exciting career choice means that what you're saying is television, you'd have to become a television as a career, and I don't know how anyone would do that. Number 9, television news has changed from an information service to an entertainment service. You could argue that that's a good thesis statement. It's very specific. Television news specifically has changed. You can argue that it has not changed, so that's a good thesis. And then this last example, all authors from the United States are gifted at their craft. That's bad. Just like in number 1, we have this word all. If we say all authors are gifted at their craft, then our essay has to describe every single author in the United States. No one has time for that, so that's not a good focused thesis statement. The last thing I want to cover is a plan of development. The plan of development is the list of 3 points that you're going to make in your body paragraphs. So let's start down here first with a thesis statement that does not have a plan of development. Rapper Eminem is the best rapper of the 20th century. So we have one person, we have our opinion, the best rapper, and we have a time frame. So that's our thesis statement without a plan of development. A plan of development are the 3 points that your body paragraphs are going to make. So here we have, with a plan of development here, he is a lyrical genius, that would be body paragraph 1. He's a master beat maker, body paragraph 2. And he's an award-winning artist. That would be what I talk about in body paragraph 3. So for your assignment this week, I want you to create a plan of development with your thesis statement, with your 3 points that you're going to make for whichever topic that you choose to write about for your first essay. If you have any questions, please email me. Thanks.